The night the ice broke. Before we step into this frozen nightmare, do me one favor, hit subscribe, like this video, and leave a comment if you're ready to walk straight into one of the most disturbing confrontations ever caught on camera. Because once the story begins, there's no turning back. The air in South Minneapolis that night was not just cold, it was punishing. The kind of cold that bites through jackets, through bone, through courage. January 24, 2026, didn't arrive gently. It arrived with screaming sirens, flashing red and blue lights reflecting off black ice, and a crowd gathering in the street like moths to a burning flame. Someone was about to die. But no one in that crowd knew it yet. Snow crusted the sidewalks like shattered glass, crunching under hurried boots as federal immigration agents poured out of dark SUVs, faces hidden behind scarves and tactical masks. Their breath rose in pale clouds as they moved quickly, deliberately, not like local patrol officers, but like men used to hunting fugitives. The target was supposed to be someone else. But fate, as it often does in stories like this, had a cruel sense of direction. Across the street stood Alex Pretti, 37 years old, Minneapolis-born, camera phone in hand. Not a criminal. Not a suspect. Just a citizen who had stepped outside because shouting had shattered the quiet of his block. Neighbors recognized him immediately, tall, broad-shouldered, wrapped in a dark parka dusted with snowflakes that sparkled under the streetlights. Alex had a reputation. Not for trouble, but for speaking up. He had grown up in these streets, seen them change, seen neighbors vanish after late-night arrests, watched the city wrestle with itself year after year. And tonight, something in him refused to stay silent. As agents moved toward a man near the corner, hands raised, shouting that he hadn't done anything, Alex lifted his phone higher. The red recording light blinked like a warning. That tiny light would soon become one of the most debated pixels in America. "Hey!" someone yelled. "Why are you grabbing him like that?" More phones appeared. More eyes. More voices. The agents paused. For a fraction of a second, the power dynamic shifted. And that's when everything started to unravel. Witnesses would later say the mood changed instantly, like a storm breaking through calm skies. One agent barked orders. Another reached for pepper spray. The man on the corner was pushed backward, stumbling into a snowbank. The crowd surged forward, not violently but instinctively, like people trying to see more clearly through chaos. Alex stepped closer. Not too close. Just close enough to capture everything. The footage that would later flood social media shows a blur of motion, boots sliding on ice, gloves grabbing at coats, voices rising in panic and anger. Alex's voice cuts through the noise. "What are you doing?" He's not resisting. An agent turns toward him. "Back up." But Alex doesn't. He shifts his stance, steadying his phone. That moment, less than 2 seconds long, would become the most dissected moment in the entire case. Because that's when the first burst of pepper spray explodes into the air. People scream. Someone drops their phone. A woman stumbles backward, coughing violently. The camera shakes but doesn't fall. Alex keeps filming even as the chemical cloud stings his eyes, even as he blinks through tears. Then everything collapses into chaos. An agent lunges forward. Another tackles a man to the ground. Shouts turn into raw panic. And suddenly, Alex is no longer just a witness. He's part of the storm. The video jerks violently downward. You hear Alex gasp. A heavy body slams into him. Ice cracks beneath them. For a few disorienting seconds, all you see is snow and blurred streetlight. Then the image flips upward again, and what it captures next would ignite protests across the nation. 3 agents surround Alex. One shouts, "Stop resisting." But Alex is on his back. Hands visible. Phone still in his right hand. Another agent presses a knee into his chest. Alex's breath comes out in ragged bursts, fogging the lens. "I'm not resisting. I'm just filming," he yells. A nearby voice screams, "Get off him." That's when the final, fatal decision is made. Authorities would later say Alex was armed. The video does not clearly show a weapon. Only chaos. Only shouting. Only confusion. A gun is drawn. Time stretches thin. The crowd seems to vanish into silence. And then, gunshots. 3 sharp cracks tear through the frozen night like lightning splitting a tree. Alex's phone drops into the snow. The camera continues recording. It records boots running. It records someone screaming his name. It records the sound of a body hitting ice, heavy and final. By the time the crowd regains its breath, Alex Pretti is lying motionless in the street, blood spreading beneath him, steaming against the frozen pavement like a dark, living shadow. The agents retreat slightly, weapons raised, shouting for people to back up. Someone kneels beside Alex, sobbing. Someone else yells for an ambulance. Another screams, "They killed him." But the night does not answer. Minutes later, red and blue lights flood the scene. Paramedics rush in. But it's already too late. Alex Pretti is pronounced dead on the street where he had once ridden his bike as a child. And that is when the questions begin. Within hours, the story explodes across every screen in America. Federal officials release a statement. The individual was armed and posed an immediate threat to officers. But online, the videos tell a different story. A man filming. A man shouting. A man being tackled. A man shot. No clear weapon. No obvious threat. Just a citizen and a camera, against agents trained for war. Protests ignite across Minneapolis. Then Chicago. Then New York. Crowds chant Alex's name in the cold, holding candles that flicker like fragile truths against a storm of official statements. His family breaks down in front of cameras. His mother asks one question again and again. If he was filming, why is he dead? Investigators are called in. Internal reviews are launched. Politicians clash on live television. Some defend the agents. Others demand charges. And through it all, one piece of evidence becomes the center of everything. Alex's phone. Because despite falling into the snow, despite the chaos, the phone never stopped recording. And when digital analysts finally managed to recover the full footage, frame by frame, sound by sound, they notice something chilling. In the final seconds before the shots, there is a shape, a movement, something near Alex's right side that no one had seen clearly before. Not a gun, not a knife, but something else entirely. Something that, if confirmed, could destroy every version of the story told so far. And when investigators zoom in on that final frozen frame, what they discover changes everything. The evidence no one was supposed to see. By dawn, the street where Alex Pretti died no longer looked like a crime scene. The blood was gone. The ice had been scraped away. The police tape fluttered loosely in the wind like a forgotten warning. But something far more dangerous than bloodstains remained behind. Questions that refused to freeze over. Inside a downtown Minneapolis federal building, investigators gathered in a room lit by cold white screens and harsher silence. The air smelled faintly of burnt coffee and tension. On the largest monitor in the room was a paused frame from Alex's phone, the final moment before the gunfire. Every eye was fixed on that image. Because what they saw didn't match the official report. Alex's right hand was visible. Empty. No weapon. No threat. Yet just inches from his side, half hidden by shadow and snow, was something else. A dark, curved shape partially obscured by motion blur. Not metallic. Not rigid. Soft. Unclear. The room split in opinion instantly. Could be clothing, one analyst muttered. Could be something dropped, another whispered. Or something planted. And that word, planted, was never supposed to enter the conversation. If you're watching this right now and you think you already know what really happened that night, pause and ask yourself this. What if the truth is far worse than either side is admitting? Backhand index pointing right, drop a comment right now. Do you believe Alex was a threat or a victim? Because by the end of this chapter, your answer might change forever. Outside those walls, the city was already boiling. Protesters filled streets under falling snow, holding signs that read, "Filming is not a crime, and who protects the people?" Chants echoed off frozen buildings like drumbeats of anger and grief. Every night, the crowds grew larger. Every night, the tension thickened. But behind closed doors, a quieter, more dangerous war was unfolding. Alex's phone had not just recorded his death. It had recorded the agents before it. Earlier footage showed them approaching the block with urgency that seemed off. Not chaotic, not rushed, but deliberate, almost rehearsed. They didn't ask questions. They didn't wait for backup. They moved as if they already knew exactly how this would end. That alone raised alarms. Then came the audio. Buried beneath wind and shouting was a phrase investigators could barely make out at first. A low voice, seconds before the shots. "Make sure he doesn't keep that." That single sentence detonated inside the room like a silent bomb. Who said it? Who was he? And what exactly was that? The possibility now loomed that Alex was targeted not for what he was doing, but for what he had recorded. And that changed everything. Suddenly, Alex Pretti was no longer just a civilian caught in chaos. He was a witness who may have seen something he was never meant to capture. And that made his death something far more sinister. If this story has you hooked already, this is where it gets dangerous, because what comes next is the kind of truth that gets buried. Fire, if you don't want to miss how deep this goes, hit subscribe right now. This isn't just a story, it's an unraveling. As internal investigations began, something strange happened. Evidence started disappearing. A second body cam feed from one of the agents? Corrupted. A nearby security camera from a closed liquor store that faced the street? Malfunctioned. A traffic cam that should have captured the entire scene from above? Under maintenance. 3 cameras. All silent. 2 silent. And then, just as quietly, the lead federal investigator assigned to Alex's case requested reassignment, citing personal reasons. Within days, he vanished from the case files entirely, replaced by a task force that refused to answer press questions. That's when independent journalists got involved. And when journalists get involved, secrets start bleeding. One reporter uncovered something buried deep in city records. A pattern. Over the past 2 years, 5 civilians had died during immigration-related operations in urban neighborhoods across the Midwest. In every case, the victims were unarmed. In every case, footage was missing or unclear. In every case, agents were cleared. Alex was not alone. He was part of a shadow pattern no one wanted to admit existed. As the story spread internationally, pressure mounted. Congressional hearings were called. Federal agencies clashed with state officials on live television. Each side accused the other of politicizing a tragedy. But none of that explained one thing. Why Alex? Then came the break. A technician working on Alex's phone data discovered a hidden file fragment. Not a video, not audio, but a compressed cache file created by the camera app itself. It contained pre-buffered frames, images recorded just before the official recording started. And those frames showed something shocking. Alex hadn't just started filming randomly. He had already been filming something else. Something across the street. In those pre-buffer frames, investigators saw agents surrounding a different man, pinned against a wall, hands zip-tied behind his back. The man's face was bloodied. His jacket was torn. And one agent appeared to strike him while another blocked the view from the street. An undocumented detainee. Off camera. Off protocol. Alex had raised his phone to capture that. Not the arrest. Not the crowd. But what happened before anyone was supposed to see. Suddenly his presence made sense. Suddenly, the urgency made sense. Suddenly, the phrase, "make sure he doesn't keep that," took on a terrifying new meaning. At this point, ask yourself, if you were Alex, would you have kept filming, knowing what might happen next? Speech balloon comment below. Would you risk your life to expose the truth? But the danger wasn't over. The journalist who uncovered the pattern? His office was broken into. Nothing stolen. Nothing damaged. Except one thing. His hard drive, the one containing Alex's recovered cache frames, was gone. No fingerprints. No forced entry. A silent warning. Now the case was no longer just about what happened on the street. It was about who didn't want the full story told. Alex's death was becoming something more than a tragedy. It was becoming a threat. And that's when his family received an anonymous message. No sender. No number. Just 3 words. Stop digging now. That message would mark the moment when the investigation crossed from public tragedy into personal danger. Because now, the truth wasn't just buried. It was being guarded. And as Chapter 2 closes, one thing becomes terrifyingly clear. Alex Pretti didn't just die because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He died because he saw something he was never meant to show the world. And the people responsible are still out there. Watching. Waiting. The truth that refused to stay buried. The warning came too late. By the time Alex Pretti's family read the anonymous message, "Stop digging now," the machinery of silence was already in motion. 2 unmarked SUVs began appearing outside his mother's apartment in St. Paul. They never stayed long. 15 minutes at most. Always different times. Always different drivers. But always the same dark tint on the windows. Always parked just far enough away to pretend coincidence. His younger sister, Mariah, noticed first. "They're watching us," she whispered one night, pulling the curtains shut with trembling hands. And she was right. Because the deeper the investigation went, the clearer one thing became. Someone inside the system was actively hunting the truth. If you're still watching right now, understand this. Real stories like this don't end when the cameras turn off. Backhand index pointing right. If you want more true crime cases that expose what powerful people try to hide, hit subscribe now. This channel doesn't flinch from the truth. The journalist whose hard drive had been stolen didn't back down. He went underground. Using burner phones and borrowed laptops, he contacted an independent digital forensics expert in Canada, someone who specialized in reconstructing deleted files from corrupted memory chips. 3 weeks later, the impossible happened. The expert recovered a ghost copy of Alex's cache frames. But this time, they were clearer, enhanced, stabilized, and what they showed detonated what remained of the official narrative. The detainee Alex had filmed earlier that night wasn't resisting. He wasn't armed. He was begging. And one of the agents, badge number partially visible, could be seen whispering something to him before slamming his head into the brick wall. The timestamp confirmed it. This happened 7 minutes before the crowd formed. 7 minutes before any confrontation. 7 minutes before Alex lifted his phone again. Which meant the agents weren't reacting to chaos. They were covering up brutality. And Alex walked straight into the cover-up. If this evidence were released publicly, it would not just end careers. It would trigger federal indictments. And someone was willing to kill to prevent that. At this point, ask yourself something uncomfortable. Do you still believe Alex's death was an accident? Speech balloon comment below, accident or execution? The journalist tried to leak the footage. The file never made it to the outlet. His encrypted email account was locked, then wiped. Then his apartment caught fire. An electrical malfunction, according to the report. But the smoke alarms were disabled. And the building's hallway camera mysteriously failed during the exact 10-minute window when the fire started. He survived. Barely. And from his hospital bed, he whispered one sentence to a nurse who later went public. "They're cleaning the timeline." That phrase would spread across social media like a fuse. Meanwhile, inside the federal task force, panic had set in. Someone had leaked the leak. Internal communications revealed agents scrambling to identify who had accessed Alex's phone data. 3 analysts were suddenly placed on administrative leave. 1 resigned. 1 vanished. The third one, a 29-year-old data technician named Eric Nolan, went missing on his drive home from work. His car was found abandoned near the Mississippi River. Engine still warm. Driver door open. Phone inside. Wallet inside. Eric was never seen again. That was the moment state investigators finally broke ranks. The Minnesota Attorney General announced an independent criminal inquiry into Alex Pretti's death. Subpoenas were issued. Phones were seized. And for the first time, federal agents were named as persons of interest. One of them was the same agent seen in the enhanced cache footage. Badge number 7714. Name, Daniel Kruger. Kruger denied everything. He claimed Alex lunged for his weapon. He claimed he feared for his life. He claimed the footage was misleading. But his story collapsed when ballistics confirmed something devastating. Alex was shot from behind. Twice. While on the ground. That single forensic detail shattered every self-defense claim. And when prosecutors prepared to file charges, something even darker emerged. Kruger's service record had been quietly altered 2 years earlier. A previous use of force complaint had vanished. A witness statement had been removed. An internal memo marked, "Do not archive," had replaced both. Someone had been protecting him long before Alex ever picked up his phone. If this revelation just made your stomach drop, you're not alone. Fire tap like if you think justice should apply to everyone, even those with badges and guns. On the morning charges were supposed to be announced, Daniel Kruger didn't show up to court. He didn't show up to work. He didn't show up anywhere. His cabin in northern Minnesota was found empty. A fire burned in the fireplace. A half-packed duffel bag lay on the floor. And written on the bathroom mirror in black marker were 3 words. "They made me." Kruger was never found. The charges against him remained open. The other 3 agents were suspended pending trial. But without Kruger, the full chain of command behind the cover-up remained hidden. Alex Pretti's family won a civil lawsuit. They received a settlement. They received an apology. They received a plaque. They did not receive the truth. And they did not receive peace. Because 3 months later, another video surfaced online. Filmed in Detroit. A man filming federal agents. Pepper spray. A struggle. And a voice in the background, identical in tone and cadence to the one on Alex's audio. Make sure he doesn't keep that. The man survived. Barely. And when reporters asked federal officials for comment, they said the same thing they said about Alex. He posed a threat. The story ended where it began. With a camera. With a citizen. With power colliding violently with truth. And a question no one in authority has ever answered. How many people died just for pressing record? If this story shook you, disturbed you, or made you angry, that's exactly why it matters. Backhand index pointing right. Subscribe now so you don't miss the next investigation. The next truth. The next story they don't want you to hear. Because somewhere out there, right now, another phone is recording. And someone else is about to pay the price for it. If you think this ending was intense, you're not ready for the next one.